and James back in 2019 when they were first putting it together. And then we filmed a couple years ago, and then it premiered in Venice over Labor Day weekend last year, and it had its Connecticut premiere at the Bushnell this past winter. And now it's here in theaters, and we're really excited. So we're gonna ask some questions. So first of all, I'm gonna begin with Steve. Steve, where did the idea to do a movie about Willie Pep come from?
It came from Jim's dad. So I was back in a long time ago, let's say. I was at Jim's place in Los Angeles. He invited me over, and he had on his bulletin board a picture of Willie Pep, and I didn't know who it was. And I asked, he said, "It's Willie Pep." He said, "My dad says I was born to play this role." And I was like, "Wow, that's great. What are you doing with it right now?" He's like, "Not much." And I'm like, "Can I help you out? Can I help you develop this thing?" Because I just, me and Jim were buddies, and he's like, "Yeah, sure." We didn't know what we were getting into then at that time. It was 2008, so do the math on that one. And we stayed with it. We kept punching, as Willie would say.
Well, Willie, I think we fell upon Willie when he was in his 30s, and we had this idea that, this grand idea that we were going to follow him when he was 18 all the way to 40, do a movie over 3 decades, and get $100 million to do that. But we realized we had to, tail our expectations, and then we fell upon this sort of docudrama approach.
How many people here actually remember Willie Pep when he was alive? So this is a good number here. One of the people who actually met Willie Pep at one time, because he came into her store, ended up playing his mother in the movie, and that is the wonderful Ima Aiello. And if you're wondering, where do I know her from? Was she in another film? Was she in another TV show? This is her very first acting role. And it's an amazing story, and I asked her this on my show this past weekend, how she got discovered. It's a great little story. So, Ima, why don't you tell us how you were discovered by these guys to play Mama?
Yes, first of all, thank you for everyone to be here, all of you, and Steve, my son. Well, what happened was, besides that I serve lunch to Mr. Willie Pep, we were in the process to sell our building on Wethersfield Avenue. And my daughter, she's a real estate agent, and my son too. And we needed an attorney, a real estate attorney, so she bring in Mr. John Wolfson to meet my husband and myself. And before you know, when he came to the barbershop, as the time we always want to be warm with the people, my husband said, "Sit down, I want to clean your neck." That haircut took about an hour. Before you know, he had a coffee, because we had the espresso coffee machine, and that machine was in the movie.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes. So Mr. John Wolfson saw the picture of Willie Pep on the wall, that it was signed, and he asked us, "Oh, did you know Willie Pep?" Yes, we did. We give him a haircut, we serve him lunch. So before you know, after this conversation was over, a few weeks later, Angela, my daughter, got a text or a call from Mr. Wolfson, and he introduced us to Steve, James, and Robert. And before you know, they came to the barbershop one day, that I didn't even know who you were, right? And I did not want to open the door. And Angela happened to come, and she talked to you before you know.
Yeah, we were about to leave, and Angela, your daughter, pulled up. She's like, what are you guys looking for? And we told her. Wolfson sent us, and we want to talk to Peter, because Peter was Pep's barber.
Right.
And we were just doing research. We weren't looking for Mama. And we stumbled upon Mama, because when we left, I was with Robert, the director, and Robert said, "That's Mama."
It's such a great story, because when I seen her, they didn't. Yeah. Robert and Steve didn't tell me. They were like, "We think we know, but we want to make sure that you have we get your blessing, because you'll be working alongside her." as a more wonderful, beautiful Italian woman at lunch, and we tried not to make it obvious while we were there. We didn't want to make it awkward for anybody. And I wasn't even in there for like 5 seconds. I just leaned over to Robert and Steve. I said, "That's Mama."
Yes, because you said, you told Angela, can you have your mom pick about 10 ladies? We go out for coffee or whatever, and then we did, and before you know, you call Angela a few hours later that you want me to be the mom in the movie.
She helped me with Italian when I needed them. I didn't speak much Italian, but she
Thank
helped
you.
me, and so did Angela DeFalcio was there. He helped me with Italian too, so it was nice to have some local Italians.
And,
Jim and Steve, was it difficult to teach Ima how to act?
was difficult for me to,
Well, for them to teach you.
oh,
No, that wasn't my job. It was Robert's job. But also, because of the faux documentary approach, the idea was, let's get a local that has no acting experience. Because
Okay.
then it'll look more natural. It'll give you that look like she'll stare at the camera because that's what non-professionals do, and that's what we want. Right? So we kind
Thanks a lot.
of, now you're a professional. Now you can do any movie you want. But at the time, yeah, that's what we were looking for, and she was perfect, and she played it perfectly. I'm sure Rob didn't have to direct her much.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And also then, like I was saying about the script that Angela and Joe, my son, print out for me. And first thing I asked him, what's this? What do I have to do? And
Yeah, we
I
actually write the
can't-
words on the page for the movie. Yeah.
And I came to the set, and you made me feel so welcome.
Oh, you did too. You
home.
brought me food every day that I hit.
Now, Ima's food is pretty good for those who've been able to eat it, who've been privileged. I want to ask you, because one of the other stars of the film is the city of Hartford. There's some great backdrops. I know the Polish National Home and a few other places. How did you select the spots for filming? And were there any that maybe you wanted you couldn't get, and maybe some that were a surprise?
Yeah, that was the beauty of the long process of developing this film. We had been visiting, we've been up here a couple of times, and I kind of knew where we wanted to be, so it helped us be efficient in going out and looking at those locations because we had a game plan. We wanted iconic, Hartford locations. We wanted those places that I was watching from the back, and I think when the diner came up, which is not in Hartford, right? But I was like, yeah, I know that diner. So you want to put, you want Hartford to be a part of the story. You want it to be a character in the film, and we wanted to, honor Hartford in that way. So we picked iconic and recognizable locations that, meant something to Willie, but also would mean something to the audience that's watching.
And it's hard to find. You had to be circa 1960s, right?
Yes.
And I know that one of the hospital, you were at a hospital, that was actually in Manchester, right? Because all the ones around here are kind of modern looking, right? Is it?
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Just Rockville.
Rockville.
That's right, Rockville. That's right.
Yeah, so Rockville and the diner. Where the heck was the diner? What is
I
it?
love it. You all know.
Yeah, Rockville. So those two locations, I think, were the
I live
only
around the
two
block.
that were outside of Hartford. Just those two was the diner, I believe, and the hospital.
Yeah, most of it was in Hartford, man. We were entrenched here. And for an actor to be here and play Willie Pep and just be entrenched in his life, jog the same path he jogged, go to the same places that he went to, hear all the stories that you guys all know. Everybody's got a Willie Pep story, I'm sure. You know that.
Yeah.
So, just coming back, it was just the right thing to do. And it was a huge part of the success of the movie. We could not have done it without Hartford.
Walk us through the timeline from how many days it took to film it, and then edit it, and then market it, and get it to the Venice Film Festival. How does that process work? I know a lot of people are curious, like, hey, how do you put
Sure.
this together?
Yeah, well, we spent about 6 weeks here preparing to film, right? About 6 weeks of prep over at CPTV first floor, right? Those offices. And then we filmed over 4 weeks, 18 days, which is a relatively short and fast film. Shoot.
whole film
We're
took
scheduled
18 days.
18 days, the whole movie, no reshoots, 18 days done. And then, so that's November, and that's Thanksgiving 2021. And then we had a cut ready to go out about a year later. We started submitting to festivals around Christmas 2022. So it's like a year process to edit. And then, Rob put a lot of care into the edit. It's a beautiful edit. He did a great job. And then just waiting for that right premiere date. And that premiere became Venice, which was September of 2023, about almost 2 years after we finished filming.
What was it like? Because, Venice, the Venice Film Festival is something you see in People Magazine and Entertainment Tonight. It's kind of a big deal, right? It's a glitzy event. What was it like to go through that, to actually watch your premiere film in Venice, Jim?
Well, it was an interesting time for our industry. There was a strike going on.
That's right.
And we had just come out of COVID. So we shot during COVID. We were kind of shut down right before. Then we got greenlit again. So we were dealing with all COVID regulations within our union, which was very, very, very strict. So it was really tough, but nothing was stopping us at this point. Nothing was going to stop us again. Just like nothing stopped Willie from getting back in that ring. So we went to Venice on different terms. We got something that you call a waiver because we were an independent film, not a studio film, and we got the waiver to go and the blessing from the union to go there. So we went in a time when there was no stars and it was kind of quiet, which in turn people had said it's actually very nice because so the beauty of Venice is walking all over the place, walking into these theaters, seeing your film. I think we got a 5-minute standing ovation.
Wow.
Which is incredible, and we had a lot of our cast and crew there that got to enjoy that deservingly. But it's a lifelong dream to get your film into Venice. Like you said, you hear it's just so prestigious. So we were just all through the moon.
Emma, what was it like to you to be
I would
walking
like
the
to
red
say-
carpet in Venice?
No, what I wanted to say was that the families were there too. You bring your wife, I bring my kids, my husband. So it was nice to not only for us, but for the family too. Dennis, next time you better come too.
One of my biggest regrets is not going. It was my son's first weekend of high school. It was there was so much going on, but looking back, I should have gone to Venice.
Yeah.
What's the first is,
It's so
right?
beautiful.
Steve, I want to ask you because, the three of you are just a small percentage of the people who put this film together. And I know a few of them, Donna Collins, my old friend, of course, who cast me as a reporter. I'm very excited about that. But how many people...
Typecasting, it's typecasting, we call that.
I know, huh? Can I ever break out of this? I'll be a boxer in the next one. How many people does it take to put together a film? And how many people are on your crew and so forth?
Well, on the crew, we were probably, 50 to 60, I'd say, with cast. But people to put together a film, when you think of all the years of development and all the people in this city alone that helped us, complete the movie, it's hundreds and hundreds. But our crew is, 40 to 50 on any given day. And then just a very small crew in post-production, 5 or 6 people working.
Does anybody out here have any questions they'd like to ask? Yes.
So, I'm a fighter here, born and raised in Hartford, Connecticut. So, I'm very familiar with Willie Pep. So, a lot of things I saw was very motivational and inspirational. I was wondering, was there something out of the norm for you to get inspired to play this role?
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way, and I'm not going to fight you. I guess you get this great appreciation for the dedication and the training and the tenacity that a fighter has to go into the ring and bear all. It's just you and another opponent. And I say this a lot, your main objective is to put someone on canvas for 10 seconds. That's your main objective. There's no other objective. So I think, my motivation was, first off, not to let anybody down. And to not let Willie Pep and the Willie Pep family and his fans who know him, not to let them down. I wanted them to see Willie Pep in all his glory up there. At the same time, we're seeing him in a different point, a different view in his life. We're not seeing him when he's at the top of his game, champion of the world. So I think the motivation was just get it right. Don't mess this up. There's a lot of people counting on you. So.
Anybody else? Yes.
Would you guys actually shoot another movie in Connecticut? Now a powerhouse, as Dennis would say, because we're so close to New York, you think that's the cost. You guys look at shooting another movie in this area?
The question was, would you shoot another movie in Connecticut?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I said 1,000% earlier at the COVA press conference because everyone was so welcoming and it's easy up here logistically. It's a little cheaper, cost of doing business, and it's exciting for the community when we're up here. Whereas when you're in New York or Los Angeles, they hate the fact that you're shooting because they're so exhausted by it, right? It's still a novelty here. So it was an absolute joy, and as a producer, like to go from one location to another and be only 5 minutes and not an hour, right? To relocate your crew if you're shooting at 2 or 3 locations in one day, that's a blessing, and that saves you time and money. I can't wait to shoot my next film in Hartford, and I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, I've been working in this industry for a long time. There is nothing worse than shooting where people don't want you. That is toxic. You don't want anything to do with that production. You have people yelling to get off your block, you can't park there, all of that. You just intrude on their lives, and they're not big fans of that, understandably, depending on what's going on and what the scene is. Total opposite in Hartford. Wherever we went, we got blessings and more food, and more extras who just wanted to work. So that's.
I got to add also the city and the state at that level, the bureaucracy that you deal with in New York and LA. Again, there's exhaustion down there, and even Atlanta, the big hubs. But here, the mayor, Luke Bronin at the time, and Governor Lamont, so supportive of our efforts, came out to the set, met us and really cared about what we were doing, and just moved mountains for us so that we can have an easier time in bringing Willie Pep's story to life.
Well, Steve's pitch worked. It was the best pitch I ever heard. Steve's pitch was, we're going to do for Hartford what Rocky did for Philadelphia. All of you were like, yep, I'm sold. Where do I sign up?
So those of you who watched the interview last weekend know a little bit about Ima's upbringing. Came from Italy, first time acting ever. But a little bit of a synopsis, if we could, Steve, on your life and career. A little 60-second version.
Sure. Wow.
How you got to where you are
Yeah, I'm
today?
a film school grad, and I've worked behind the scenes and behind the scenes, like back offices of film productions for years, and just learned the business through the business, and have always been creative, have stepped out and produced different things, and have written many scripts, and this is my greatest success to date. So thank you, Willie Pep, thank you, Hartford, thank you, James, thank you, Ima, thank you, Dennis, everyone, Donna, 25 years in this.
How about you, Jim?
Oh, I don't know how I top that. Yeah, I mean, I'm a journeyman, been doing it a long time, since I'm 13, ups and downs, peaks and valleys, been on top of the world, had it, didn't have it, so there's some, I can relate a little bit to Willie, which started when I was very young, movie Hook, movie Hero, Basketball Diaries, bunch of TV stuff, Band of Brothers, The Offer, thank you, yeah, Band of Brothers, Easy Company, The Offer, got the Batman is coming out, I think, tomorrow, The Penguin, thank you, someone correct me.
So you couldn't top that. You just one-upped me.
Well,
like
no,
10
I
times.
couldn't top the honesty and the passion that you have behind there, saying this is my best job to date. But I will,
35 years, dude.
I
and
will
you-
say this is one of my best jobs to date, without a doubt. So, and I thank Hartford as well.
Great career.
And I'll give the final question to Ima, and that is, I want to ask, because I was at Festa Italia a few weeks ago with you, and people really adore you. They come up and they take pictures with you and so forth. And I'm just wondering, how has your life changed since this movie?
Well, tonight my classmates are here from high school. We're going to have a 55th reunion
Wow.
next week. And are you still here? Yeah. Oh, they came
That's great.
They came to support me.
Which high school is that?
Buckley High School.
Buckley High School. There you go.
I was so happy to see them.
Class of 1969.
That's awesome. Buckley High School class of 69.
Yeah.
Well, now you can sign the yearbook. Any other questions?
Yes, when researching Willie Pep's life story, obviously this is stuff that wasn't really known to the public. Where did you find this information?
Well, that's a great question. Where do we find the information? I mean, some of the stuff that wasn't public and some that was. There's a lot of public stuff as far as his records and his marriages and his finances online, but obviously we didn't want to have a Wikipedia movie about Willie Pep. You got to dig deeper. You want the audience to be educated and understand Willie's journey. And I have to chalk that up to Steve because he went into the deep dive, and he'll talk more about that. But I know he spent a lot of time in Hartford, spent a lot of time with his kids, spent some time with his wife, and locals that knew him.
Yeah, mostly talking to Billy. Billy was my closest confidant on this, and really knew his father and told stories from his POV, and I understood it was from his point of view, right? Not Willie's, but you get all that information, and I call Billy at any time. Pep's widow, Barbara, his closest friend who passed just a couple of years after we started developing, Mike Tamiolo, told me a lot about Willie Pep. His nephew, Mike, also, told me stuff about Pep, and actually had a Willie Pep script that was, a source for some information. And Bill Lee, who wrote for the Hartford Current, wrote this column, this editorial for like 30 years, With Malice Toward None. That was my greatest resource because he wrote it from a first-person perspective, like really intimate things, like just having dinner at Willie Pep's house. And he would write a whole column or a whole story about the time he spent with Willie at his house having dinner. Really gave you an insight into Willie Pep that you couldn't find anywhere else.
Yes, sir.
James, can you talk a little bit about your training as far as boxing goes?
Yeah, I love this question. I think I have a different answer every single time, depending on how I feel. It was like it was easy, and sometimes I'm like, oh, it was brutal. So I trained at Koba, John Oak Boxing. John is here today. Ike is out there. Ice Scully. There's so many over there, and that was a source of that was my home base. That's where I would jog to and train with. But as far as the early times in trying to get this movie made over a decade, there's only certain resources that we had as an independent film. So I hung a speed bag in my garage, and I went and bought a jump rope, and I would just do road work. I did what I could control until I got to Johnny, until I got to a jam. So physically, I was ready. And I'll always say, physically, I was ready. I think mentally and understanding how much work a fighter actually puts in training-wise, I think that was overwhelming, especially some of the sparring sessions. You're not used to getting hit. You don't understand when you get hit, especially by some who are or were professional boxers, but they don't know how to sort of go 50%, or they don't even know how to go 20%. You tell them you just want to love tap and they knock your ass down. You're like, jeez. But I accepted that. I leaned into that. I wanted that. I had the thirst for that. I've been wanting to get Willie's story told so much, and just trying to practice and emulate his footsteps. I know I can never actually do what he does, or else I'd quit acting and start fighting at 40-something years old. But I know I gave it my best. I tried my best.
Excellent. We'll take one last question.
Can you tell me a little bit more about the decision to approach this from a fake documentary perspective? I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So
No, not you.
you can back me up. Yeah, we so it took a long time to get this movie made, and about halfway through the process, so let's say 7 or 8 years, we were stuck. Right, we're in neutral. We had this, not typical, but we had a boxing script about Willie Pep, and not a lot of people knew who he was or cared. And I'm on a train coming home from work. I'm in, New York City, going home to Brooklyn. And I'm like, what can I do, man? I'm just trying to crack the code, what can I do with this script? It's gotta be the script, or what can we do collectively to get this movie made? And I'm like, it just hit me, like, what if this documentary crew had spent time with Willie before his comeback in 1965? And what if I applied this found footage approach to the boxing film? I've never seen that before. I've never seen a faux doc in like a dramatic narrative film. Let's go for that. Let's try that. And I scratched the script, page 1 rewrite, and I rewrote it with that conceit. I rewrote it as a faux documentary, and it was either going to really work or it was going to be really laughable. And we found the right filmmaker, and I think it worked.
Excellent. So, if you want any more information about the film, featherweight.com, spread the word, post pictures, tag the Featherweight. We want people to go out and watch it. It's available It's several cinemas throughout Connecticut right now, right? And the best way to find it is?
At the featherweight.com. Yeah, it's in quite a few cinemas out.
15.
15. Actually, we just heard that we